Okay.
Do you want to be on slides?
I have them on my iPad. I'm gonna.
Well, Liam was nice to me. I really want to Are you in the Zoom? And there, we just don't stop here. I haven't seen this room. That's fair. We should all say our names. No, you by your line. Try to make it seem like number 9. Stop saying it's stressing you out. Caleb actually together like those slides were
Downstairs. Oh my goodness. How do I do what? Text the door. What? To see if anyone is downstairs. Like, I don't know how to set it. Like, not. I think it's a setting thing. I can try to fix it. I don't think your computer will turn on. Because like I think if anything like the screen is just oriented. But I don't want to they're so like I don't think they're video oriented. Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome back. We're here again. For better or for worse. So Solstice is coming up. It's exciting. If you haven't filled out the form and gotten tickets, please do that. It's a super fun time. You should have also gotten an email today. But yes, the RSVP is due next Tuesday, so it's coming up quickly. So please do that. Tickets for dinner and the Sun Dogs. By the way, 2 of our professors are in the Sun Dogs. Gonna plug that, including John Martin. So it's quite an experience to see him shred some vocals. But tickets for both dinner and the Sun Dogs are $20, and then if you just want to go to the Sun Dogs only, it's $5. There's also an anonymous cost waiver form that's available to you via the department and any sponsors. So don't feel like cost is a barrier if you want to attend.
If you have filled out the form and haven't paid me, please pay me. Either cash, Zelle, or Venmo. Also, merch. If you have paid for your merch and haven't picked it up, but like want to get it today, come to Ben and I after this meeting and we'll get it for you. Yeah, sooner the better, because, yeah, but no real pressure.
Okay. These are our AMS attendees that we sponsored to go, and so now they have been voluntold to come and share their experience with you guys. I don't know if you guys want to take it away. Oh yeah, okay, so preface, this was over winter break. This was in New Orleans, which they did completely academic things the entire time in New Orleans. And yeah, if you guys just want to like go around, say your name and like your year.
Sure.
Ben, or Ben can start because Ben is closest to me.
Hi, my name is Ben. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a senior graduating this May, and I was sponsored by the Department for Transportation.
I'm Knight. I'm a sophomore. Yep.
I'm Megan. I'm a senior, also graduated in May.
I'm Nikhil, I'm a junior, and I'm an AOS major.
I'm Caleb. I am also an AOS major, and I'm a senior.
I'm Ethan, I'm a senior.
I'm Eleanor. I'm a senior.
I'm Rhian, I'm a senior.
I'm Abby. I'm a senior.
I'm Emma, and I'm a junior. I'm Emily, and I'm a senior.
Cool.
Okay.
Also, you guys think of questions because this is kind of like, it's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be more like a panel idea vibe. So like, keep your mind active. You know, I mean, just hi Ethan. Do you have a question?
Hi. Well, this is like the first meeting of the semester. Like we can have new people. I feel like they should share their names as well.
Oh yeah. Do we reverse panel it? Yeah. If you guys want to say your name and your major, I'm not gonna remember anybody's names, but I will eventually. If you come to enough meetings, I will know your name. Look at that. You can start, Liam.
I'm Liam. I'm a junior.
I'm Molly, I'm also a junior. I'm Catherine, I'm a junior. I'm Ava, I'm a sophomore. I'm Brooke, I'm a freshman. I'm Olivia, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Fern, freshman.
I'm Ashley, I'm a sophomore. I'm Brenda, I'm a freshman. I'm Lucy, I'm a freshman. I'm Lauren, I'm a sophomore.
Caden, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Preston, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Ben, I'm a junior.
I'm Cole, I'm a senior. I'm Nicholas, I'm a freshman.
I'm Julia, I'm a freshman.
I'm Nick. I'm also freshman.
I'm McKenna, and I'm also a freshman.
Okay. I also just realized I didn't introduce myself. Hi, I'm Paige. I'm a senior. I'm the president of this club, which is why I'm talking. Hi. So, okay, now we can take it away.
Cool. Yes. So, yeah, New Orleans was a very busy week. The student conference was especially after like snow flight delays, which I'm sure people will share their experiences with. After we got there Friday night, Saturday and Sunday were absolutely a crunch in terms of the student conference. There was a lot to see that we'll talk about, but that began with some welcoming remarks, a keynote speaker, and that really one of the highlights of the beginning of the student conference was the power of community of personalizing to community audiences and community-driven science. And then afterwards, there were conversations with professionals, and then some times for networking later that day. Some other events that took place were panels. So a panel of like 3 to 4 people sharing what they're researching. There were many panels that I went to that were on the science communication side, and some people up here are going to talk about panels on aviation, panels on climate and agriculture, etc. So those were very interesting, and very nice to connect with some people in the field, especially finding some niche interests. There were also some interactive sessions, some professional development workshops. So there was a elevator speech workshop where we collaborated on, what is it exactly that you should say when you're networking? What's a good 1 minute, this is about me speech, and some others will talk about their experiences with the interactive sessions. And then, as I alluded to, there were also times set aside for networking, meeting students from other schools, from other universities, meeting professionals, whether it was at the career fair, the career and grad school fair, or whether it's in between, you know, some of the different presentations. There were plenty of opportunities for networking and connecting with other people. And I'm excited to hear, you know, who everyone connected with, or if there were any leads. And then the full conference occurred after the student conference, and that was also extremely fast-paced in terms of information. Many of the same networking opportunities, but the gist, you know, the difference between the two was that the student conference was a bit less granular in terms of more people see sort of the same things. There were four options when it comes to the different panels, but the entire conference, there were like 12 or 14 different options, so it was very granular. There were many different niches to explore. So if you have questions about the full conference, there were a few of us that attended at least part of the full conference. So yeah, you can ask those questions as well. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about just the overall logistics of how the conference went? All right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In case you wanted to see two of everybody, there you go.
Yeah.
Alright.
And then Emma H is not able to make it here tonight. So they asked me to share their slide. They were excited to see a new place, to see New Orleans. It was a very nice experience to see something, you know, different for a change. Emma's words of wisdom: go to the conference ready to talk to strangers. I'm kind of expanding on this a bit, but it is very difficult to walk up to a stranger and like just introduce yourself and kind of like brag about yourself. Very, very uncomfortable thing to do. So go to the conference ready to do that, and look at the schedule beforehand to ensure that you're going to all of the events that are interesting or beneficial. So like I mentioned before, there were many different options in terms of which panels to go to, and certainly you needed to look at the schedule ahead of time so that you could attend what you wanted to attend. Emma really enjoyed getting closer with the AOS community. So in addition to students from other schools, even though we meet once every other week, it was really nice to meet with you guys, you know, like more often than just like during classes. It was nice to hang out with you guys. And Emma's favorite parts were learning about career options that they hadn't thought about, such as risk management being very cool, and connecting with other broadcast meteorologists, and of course, great food and fun travel stories. Here's a picture of us during the opening remarks.
So these are my thoughts. So I wanted to talk a little bit about as someone who doesn't want to end up in academia long term, what it was like going to the students conference and what I got out of it, and maybe what I wish I had done a little bit differently. So I came into the conference knowing a little bit about private sector jobs, but obviously I didn't have the full picture. I still don't have the full picture. But one of the main things that I wanted to get out of it was learn what are the different options in the private sector, and then talk to professionals who are in the private sector currently and learn about their career paths, what they did, how they got into it. And so yeah, that was the main thing that I was hoping to get out of the conference. And as it turns out, what I actually got was most of the people there are students. And so, because it's a student conference. So there's not actually as many professionals to connect with as I initially hoped. And most of the people at the career fair are graduate schools, not companies. There are companies to connect with there and to talk to. But yeah, it's a lot of students. As far as connecting with students goes, it was fun to talk to students from different schools, hear their stories, hear about their programs, hear about how they're different from us. But as far as student connections go, I really enjoyed connecting with all the people in the department, because I feel like those are some of the most important connections that you're going to make among students. Because the people in your class are 15 to 20 people who you get to know frequently, doing homework together, studying together. Those are the people that you know and trust. And going forward, I think those are going to be really valuable connections. So I think taking advantage of the time to not just connect with people outside of your school, but also grow those connections with people in your school. Because I think those are probably going to be some of the most valuable student connections that you make going forward. Another thing that I learned about the private sector, career paths, talking to some people, is it seems like it's not super predictable in terms of where your career is going to take you. I'm not sure how it is in other industries, whether it's predictable where you're going to end up. But as far as private sector meteorology goes, it seems like a lot of companies have fairly niche positions. What I mean by that is they have, unless you're working at a meteorology company like AccuWeather, where they have a lot of positions, you'll find companies that just have a handful of positions for meteorologists. They don't have a whole department of meteorologists. And what that means is those positions don't open all that often. And so when an opening does come along in the private sector, it seems like people jump on those openings to get their foot in the door, and you have to be willing to move across the country to take those openings. And so you might be bouncing around a little bit. And so it's not necessarily super predictable about what you're going to be doing. And another thing was learning how to network. I'm not very good at networking, and I wish I had done more of it when I was there. But I did do a speed networking event, which was probably the most fun thing that I did there. It was a lot of fun being forced to talk to other students, and then also there was a professional operational meteorologist there who was just talking to different students, and I got to connect with him, talk with him, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, it turns out that networking is fun, and yeah, definitely a good thing to do.
So we go to the next slide.
What I wish I'd done, yeah, be more forward with connecting with professionals, because as I said, it's mostly students there, and what that means, at least at the student conference, if you're only going to the student conference, it's mostly students there. And so there are a handful, or a lot of professionals there, but more students. And so the professionals are kind of in high demand. A lot of students are going to be going and talking to them. So if you don't go take the initiative and talk to them, they're not going to come talk to you, because they already have students coming to them and engaging in conversation with them. So you have to be willing, if you want to make those professional connections, you have to be willing to be forward with those connections and actually go and talk to people.
I wish I done a little more of that.
And tying into that is that the career advice that was given in some of the talks and stuff was good, but it was fairly generic. And that's not a fault necessarily, because they were talks given to thousands of people, and you can't be super specific in your career advice when you're talking to thousands of people. So if you're coming to the conference wanting to get more specific career advice from professionals, that's going to have to happen in a smaller group setting or even a one-on-one conversation where you can ask specific questions. So I think if you're looking for to connect with professionals and learn, the best way to do that is going to be actually going being forward. Some things to know. I would say bring a few copies of your resume. I didn't think that companies still asked for physical copies of your resume when you go talk to them. I know there was at least one company there that was asking people for their resume. So probably worth it too if you're going to a career fair. Bring a few copies of your resume, because most places won't, but some places might. when you connect with people, actually, and you feel like it's a meaningful connection, actually get their LinkedIn or their email to establish that connection and make it something that you can follow up on. And email them or talk to them on LinkedIn within a day or two of connecting with them in person. So then you establish that connection for the future. So that's something you can actually take advantage of moving forward. That's all I have.
Oh, yeah, this is great. Okay. I've been here a couple of years, and throughout the time that I've been here at UW-Madison, I've always figured that I'd be going into academia. I've always been, I'm gonna go to grad school, and then I'll get a PhD, and then kind of go from there. But this trip has really kind of opened my eyes into the different paths that you can take in the career. And so now I decided I haven't applied to any graduate schools, and I'm going to be going, hopefully, in a year or two to law school. And I'm going to do like a law, more policy path. But I wouldn't have really been able to come to some of the conclusions that I've been able to come to throughout a lot of the conversations that I was able to have there with career professionals and some of the talks I was able to attend. And I mean, that was kind of the main thing for me was, for a long time, I thought I would be doing academia, and I had always kind of sworn off the private sector, a little bit on, I didn't think I was going to really go into policy, but through having those conversations and seeing other people's perspectives in those fields, I was able to find something that I think really is going to be for me, and so that was really valuable for me.
This is a picture I put in there. This is a slide from one of the talk things that they were doing. And basically, it's just an overview of a bunch of options for jobs in the private sector. I kind of went into this conference thinking I was going to go public sector, I was going to be a National Weather Service girly, dream AMS jobs, all that stuff. And I just didn't really know a whole lot about the other options that were available. And I really learned a lot, especially from this specific slide. I took a picture of it so because I saw it and I was like, this is important, I want to know this. But there's so many options and so many different paths you can go down. And then just kind of like building off of that, one of the main things I'd say probably like 50% of the people presenting there did is they had a slide in their presentation with a big squiggly line on it, and it was like, I didn't have a normal path. And it was super cliche every time, but they were like, I started here and I thought I was going to go to grad school, but then I ended up here, and then I went here, and then I went here, and they all just had these crazy different paths and journeys to where they were. And I think that was really encouraging for me as somebody who doesn't really know exactly what I want to do. Just so that you don't really have to have it figured out, and that there's different options, and you can bounce back and forth, you can have the public sector, go back to grad school, all these kind of things. So that was a fun takeaway for me.
So there was a couple pictures like earlier that showed all of us sitting in this giant conference room with this like enormous projector. I just threw this picture in there to show like the smaller rooms that you'd be in for sessions. So I know that me and a couple other people were at one that was for NOAA, for example, later. And what's nice about these rooms is it's like a whole lot smaller. Like I'm never somebody that's gonna walk up to a microphone in a room of 2,000 people and ask someone why they chose a specific career path. That's just not who I am. But it's a lot more manageable to like talk to some of these professionals and hear a little bit more about specific questions you might have, or even network within a small room like that, in my opinion. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of why I threw in there the more manageable space. This picture is actually from the full conference. As a note, they don't make podiums for people that are 5'1". So I am behind the podium, you can't see it, but I would wear heels if that's ever used of it.
Okay, so one key takeaway I found, I feel like all of us are just talking about how we don't really know what we want to do. And so I went to a talk where there was a hydrologist talking about his career. So his main thing was like, basically there's water everywhere, there's going to be jobs everywhere. a great field for people like majoring in AOS. The only requirements are 4 years of school, taking calculus and physics, so I think that's like most of us in this room. And so you start at, the GS5 is like government jobs, they have these ratings for salaries, but essentially it's a lower level, but every year you like have that job, you upgrade, so eventually it gets up to like GS11, and every single year you get a salary increase, which is pretty nice salary increase. So this is just something that I thought was interesting. Like, you don't really know what you want to do, and you've already taken physics and calculus. This is a great option. It has like a good mix of field work and computer work, so you can kind of get the best of both worlds. And the field is expanding and evolving with remote sensing. You know, that's like the new thing and the big thing here in Wisconsin. But there's also options for in the government and private, so either path you want to take, there's kind of options for this.
Yeah, here's some other photos that we had just from the student conference, like that weekend there. Like, we have some photos from kind of the big opening remark talk that they had us go to. So that's on the top right. And then also bottom row, if you can see it behind the table, we have another photo from that talk that we went to. And then all the other photos on that screen are just photos that some of us took while kind of exploring New Orleans, between different talks and panels. A lot of us, I know, would leave the conference and maybe go grab lunch somewhere, walk around the French Quarter, like kind of get to also explore the area a little bit and get to know the city, because it seemed like most people in this group had never been to New Orleans, so we also kind of wanted to have a little fun out of it too. And it's great. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, guys, so there was a whole thing when it snows in Dallas, Texas, and other places, planes have problems. These are mostly from the way back when everybody was having more successful flights. But there's just a whole bunch of really fun plane pictures. The top right is really the only one I know of, because that's one I threw in there, but that's like all the city lights of New Orleans, and like the sunset behind it. So, pro tip, if you're ever on a plane and you get to like pick your seat, remember if you're flying north or south, and sit on the side wide open window with the sunrise or sunset.
All the other plane pictures on there may or may not have been mine, and they were all from the flight back. So the one at the bottom left there is Denver, because I don't live in Denver. So that was cool. And all the other ones were just like cool sunset through the clouds, the ribbons. I don't know. It was a really cool flight one. Like, they had some problems, but it's always.
Oh yeah, this was. So yeah, kind of. I feel like everyone's done a good job summarizing it, but I thought I also went to the student and then the main conference, and I thought a really cool part about the student conference in particular was that it was really kind of gauged towards career building, as in they had a lot of these, especially at the end, these kind of interactive sessions that helped you either do speed networking, like Caleb said, elevator pitch, building, stuff like that you may not obviously learn in school or be really familiar with, and they kind of put they taught you and also put it in the context of like meteorology, because this is a really niche major, really niche field, and so kind of knowing how to talk to other people in the field in particular, I think is a really useful trait that you kind of got out of this conference. Like Caleb said again, there's a ton of opportunities to network with different people. That's kind of the main point of these conferences like this for people of our age. You're able to get your foot in the door, talk to people who you otherwise wouldn't have. And I mean, it's hard, like, especially when you're trying to talk to someone who's 20 years old or they're an established professional and you're this like college student who has like no idea what they want to do. It's tough, but in, I guess, a setting like this, you have the opportunity to do that. And I think that was one of the awesome things about the conference. Also, that bottom middle one was a presentation from a coach, one of the TAs. So it's pretty cool to be able to see presentations from this building making it to a national conference. Lots of people listening to it. If you don't know what Q Vector is, you'll know soon. And yeah, the last thing, at the end of the day, these conferences are in like huge cities. Next year, or this year is in New Orleans, next year it's in Houston. And so you have the opportunity to, especially if you don't travel that much, to see somewhere completely new, get closer with all your classmates if you got a lot closer with everyone here, and, you know, partake in extracurricular activities, eating out, stuff like that. It's fun. Oh yeah, and that is a pool. It wasn't actually toxic waste, but for some reason they decided to color it this neon green. But it was heated, super awesome. So, yeah.
There's also like 8 floors up.
It was. So I can't guarantee there will be a heated pool in the next year or something. But
This is Nini. So I would say my biggest takeaway from the conference was to kind of make the most of the panels and breakout sessions and to do what you think is most interesting or would benefit you the best, not necessarily what your friends are going to, just because they're going, we're just going here, I'll go there. Me and Emma, other Emma, went to an interactive session that was about emergency management, which is not something I never thought of before. And we were paired with a meteorologist who works for JP Morgan Chase, and so we learned a lot about what she has to do every time there's severe weather across the country. And she is the only meteorologist that JP Morgan hires. So it was very interesting to learn all about that. And then also get all got a lot closer, I feel like, with our flat space, which is the pictures on the right hand side, and just to like get to know everyone around it. It was really interesting.
Okay, I guess kind of like what is like the big finale of the student conference is poster presentations. It's the last event that happens, so literally the finale. All these presentations are very interesting to go to see what other people are researching. It's also a great opportunity if you have done research or are working on research to present your work and connect with other people that either are like graduate students in that specific niche or if they're like just even interested in that topic. I don't really have much to say about that other than if you have the opportunity to do it, you should, because it's scary, but it's very fun. Okay. And kind of what Nikhil already kind of spoiled, next time Houston, that's our next year's student conferences. It is over the school year this time, unfortunately. I did look, but still a great opportunity to go if you're able to. Okay, you guys, any questions for anyone up here? Feel free to just, yeah.
Given that most of y'all are native Wisconsinites, were y'all happy or very irritated it snowed 10 inches right after y'all left?
I was happy because I was happy to see green, and I knew I wasn't going to see green very long. Yeah, and it was warm. It was like, when, what? It wasn't that warm. It was really warm. Because the time that we got back, it was like in the 90s. So I was like, oh my goodness, I wish I was in paradise. It was really warm like the day we left.
Yeah. But most of the conference was like 45 degrees in the evening, but
Although I will say my Uber driver on the way to the airport was complaining about how they were gonna get like 10 inches of snow or something like that. He's like, oh, I live in the bayou and I'm not gonna go anywhere because everything's gonna shut down. But, like, even if anything happens, like, I don't know. It was really funny though. Dude was hacking it up. Absolutely did not like the snow, and I was like, yeah, this is why you live in Louisiana.
I mean, it would have been cool to see snow there, but at the end of the day, I don't think New Orleans is capable of handling any snow.
No, we would have been there another night.
We would have been another year maybe.
They might have canceled it.
Just like 2 days.
Oh, true.
I don't even think O'Hare
I know. I actually would have laughed so hard. I feel like at that point, if my flight got canceled on the way out. No.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Yeah.
I heard Jim Cantori was there. Did anyone get a picture with him, or were there any other big names that anyone got to meet?
I saw Jonathan Martin on. There was like a digital like display right when you walked in, and like we were just like walking through the place, and I like looked to my left, and there's this giant blown up like talking figure of Dr. Martin, and I was like, why is Dr. Martin here right now? Like this is the student conference. What's going on? I don't know that he wasn't like physically there at that point, so I didn't really get a. I mean, we got a picture.
I have a picture, and I would like to add that
when I stood next to it, the top of his head was taller than I am, and I'm 5'5".
So it was a very large
It was a
picture.
very
at that
large
time.
one,
Well, he was actively talking, it was a video.
Yes, it was like some like webinar that they had like literally projected on the wall that we were all walking past. That's the only big name.
I should have put it this actually.
There's a lot of just like, Weather Channel people you might recognize if you ever watched that, but it's probably a lot of NWS people too.
Although I will say, Professor Tristan Dupuy, who is a professor here, he was an AMS fellow, which means that he got an award for being good at what he does. So that kind of made him famous. I mean, he had a whole like award ceremony and stuff. So it's a famous person.
He was like the head of NCAR there, and like also like head of UW-Madison, stuff. And Marshall Shepard was there.
Did anybody go to the Twisters panel?
It was entertaining.
Yeah,
That was fun.
it was quite like I popped in because like I think they had a second one like during the full conference, and I popped in and it was like the weirdest experience ever when I see this like I don't even know who he was, but he was on the stage and he was talking about how he went storm chasing with like Glenn Powell and like whoever the lead actress is in Twisters, and then he almost got Steven Spielberg to go storm chasing too. like I was like, I did not know I was walking into, but not that.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know what we mean by Twisters panel, the movie that came out, they had like 4 or 5 people, maybe a couple of them were online. Actually, there was just one that was online, where they talked about how they made the movie and what kind of efforts they made to make it as realistic as possible, but still be like a movie that was successful like in the market. And I think that was super interesting, as I'm sure many of us have seen that movie. And there were some good questions that were asked about like, what things did you do to make sure that like you're not inspiring the wrong kind of attention to like weather science, and that you're, if you're saying something that it's true and that kind of thing. But yeah, there were people from like the art department that were talking about how they designed the vehicle that they used in that movie. There's a vehicle in the movie, I'm not spoiling anything if you haven't seen it, but they talked about a whole lot of other things as well.
This is most likely a personal opinion question, but do y'all think it was likely that Geostorm had a similar thing in a past AMS?
I doubt it.
Probably not.
I don't think Geostorm had any of the same like equivalents of like I don't know. I feel like as a community we feel like we own Twister, like the original Twister. Like it is just like so ingrained of like who we are, and like everybody, or at least like everybody at least of like the younger professional generation who like grew up watching it, they were like it's like part of who they are, and they all like everybody has like a unique experience with it, or like a moment that they have, and I feel like Geostorm just didn't do that.
I will also say, like, in the context of the conference as a whole, there was a lot of like discussion about like weather for like how it impacts people, and that's something that the most recent Twisters movie touched on pretty significantly, of like communicating hazards and like, I mean, yes, it was a movie, but like there was some discussion of like what does it mean when you have like the public storm chasing, and like how do you make sure that people are knowledgeable and stuff like that. And so I think that's one big reason why they included the panel, not just because it was like Twisters and we love Twisters. I think part of it was also like it had to do a little bit with the context of the conference and making it like people centered, maybe that's the way to put it. But that was like a theme in the conference overall, I think.
I was just gonna ask, I liked Abby's slide about the hydrology, like that was something I'd never really heard of before. But if anybody else had any other careers maybe that they never heard of, or possible like internships, because I think there's a lot of freshmen, sophomores that maybe have never heard of a lot of them. So if anybody heard of any there, or got to see people from the internships that they had, or like things that they could share with people who might not know about those opportunities.
Okay, so I participated in the NSF SOARS seniors and graduating and stuff like that, like cursing about grad school applications and all that jazz. So I think that was really fun, and just like, I don't know, I felt this way last year too. It's just like seeing people that you like knew, like, and reconnecting with like old people, because I feel like once you graduate, you're like not gonna see. I'm getting what is it? Is it like Sophie? Even though like I'm not graduated yet, what's that word? Sophie, sure. Yeah. Like, because I'm a senior, but I feel like it's a great way to like see people that you haven't seen in a while. But one of the internships I did was Oklahoma's REU, and then which is the NWC REU, and then another NSF story. I know there's like also like Wyoming and stuff like that, and like you can look on the NSF REU site for other internships as well, but most of them were there learning at little sessions and stuff like that. But
One meteorology job that I had not heard of before was a forensic meteorologist. And I'm trying to remember what exactly they do, but I think it basically involves analyzing past weather data and how it, what role it played in past disasters like this.
yeah, and they also use it to like verify news stories and stuff like that. Which is really
They
cool.
give you a lot of like word cases and
Yeah.
stuff, but they don't use it.
Do y'all feel like there were some just like fields or I guess sectors that people were presenting on that they felt more positive about job work and environment or maybe less positive?
There were,
It's making me flip through every single one. I'm so sorry,
oh,
guys.
one more.
Oh, yeah.
There were a few. I just needed to jog my memory. There were a few jobs. The ones that are like boxed in red were the ones that were like kind of more kind of like an upward trend. So I remember space weather and aviation were like growing in terms of how many people are being hired for them, especially given how active the sun has been recently. We need meteorologists to better understand space weather and how it impacts, for example, pipelines, electricity distribution, GPS, things that affect us on a day-to-day. But otherwise, weather and artificial intelligence and aerosol and air quality monitoring were also mentioned as fields, like subfields that are really growing. If anyone else wanted to add on that.
Yeah, I know in one of the talks that I went to, there was like a presenter presenting, and she was saying that when she graduated like in a December semester, and that following January was the 2017 inauguration, and she talked about how there was like federal hiring freezes and all that going on, and I thought that was potentially a little bit relevant to many of the fears that we might be having today regarding a similar situation. But she did the big squiggly line pad and made a big point about how she really wanted to be in the public sector but couldn't get a job there, so she worked in the private sector for a couple years, and then once the hiring freeze had been lifted, she moved back over to the public sector. And she just kind of made a big point about how like you don't have to pick one side and stay with it, but you can kind of bounce back and forth, and like it's not the end of the world just because of current things happening in our world.
Yeah, I kind of noticed, or at least the people I talk to, especially with like younger meteorologists that are in the field that they've been in their 20s, early 30s, a lot of them are in risk analysis and the energy sectors, which are really kind of private sector jobs. And I knew those existed, but I think, at least I was getting the sense that those fields are a lot bigger than I had thought. Because there's a ton of companies in the energy industry, risk analysis industry, or that need like that type of meteorologist position, so that was one thing.
Well, also, with the current administration, there's gonna be a lot more jobs in environmental law, so that was something that they touched on a little bit.
Any other questions?
Were there any, over the course of the conference, thinking of how we don't really know exactly what we want to get into? Ethan, you mentioned, developing an interest in the law side, environmental law. I wanted to see, did anyone else come up with, find another interest that they'll maybe explore a bit further, or didn't know existed, before going to the conference?
No, but I do have I will say that for career path stuff, especially I didn't go to the student conference very much this year, but especially the main conference, that's where I talked to my grad advisor and stuff like that, and I made a really good connection with them. I went to all the talks. I sat down with them for coffee and we talked for a long time. It's also just a great place to meet potential people that you're interested in doing research with, because there's a lot of conferences or sessions about very, very specialized things. So you'll be oh, weather and AI, but it's actually AI for this specific thing in this specific place at this specific time. So you'll be oh, you can find exactly if you have this weird interest, you can find exactly a session for it. But I found it a great way to network. And then another thing, I think someone was talking about networking earlier, I would definitely recommend, if you're a shy person like me, finding a mentor or something like that who can introduce you to other people, because that's so much easier, and also they're probably more reputable because they've been in the field longer. So if it's one of the professors here, or even people who are here right now, having someone to connect with other people is so much better than just doing it alone. So yeah. I got a little off.
I can speak. Also, not necessarily Ben's question, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it with the slides. But Knight and I did go to a grad school talk that it wasn't led by the panel of grad students themselves. The entire talk was just people like us getting to ask them questions, and it was kind of nice seeing that there are so many other people kind of in our position too, who are maybe a little nervous about going through the process and don't know where to start, because I personally think that that's a road that I maybe want to go down, and so it was nice to ask questions to them as well. And I guess some of the bigger points that I got from them based on what some of the students were asking these people were, it's really, really important to have a good relationship with your advisor, and then also kind of what Eleanor was saying too, that connection will either make getting your degree really easy or really hard, and they really kind of hit that point hard during the talk, because if you have a bad advisor, they were saying it could take you so much longer to finish your degree than if you are working with someone that you get along with really, really well. And they also really wanted to emphasize that because the relationship is so important, even if it's not necessarily your exact interest that you want to pursue, as long as you have a really, really good relationship with that person, it's still a path worth going down. And just when you're kind of going into that process, try not to go into it with just, I guess, narrow vision, only having a certain set of interests. That you want to kind of market yourself as being someone that has a lot of different research interests, that finds a lot of different things cool, because that will make you, as an undergrad, a lot more appealing to someone who may have funding.
what was your favorite panel that you went to?
Yeah, so I'm double majoring in AOS and life science communication. So my favorite panel was on science communication, and the takeaway message was we need to personalize messages to specific audiences. Otherwise, there's so much stuff happening in their lives that they're not actually able to take any action unless things are like really personalized towards them.
My favorite panel was the severe weather panel because they mostly talked about like severe weather analyzation with radar meteorology like techniques instead, which is what I do for research and hope to do in grad school and as a career someday. So it's interesting to see like how other people have used it for different like types of weather and forecasting and analysis.
I would say one of my favorite panel or talks, I guess, was, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was a hydrologist who worked for the National Park Service, I believe, which like I didn't know that existed, and as someone that spends a lot of time outside, that was really interesting to hear about like his career path and why the National Park Service specifically was looking for hydrologists.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the tropics. I research at the Hurricane Research Division of the summer, and so I really liked in the student conference, the tropical talk I thought was really interesting. And also in the main conference, they had some talks on the Julian oscillation, and there's one actually about large-scale climate energy budget that I went to that was super interesting in my opinion. Not at all related to the tropics, but that was super cool.
I think my favorite panel was, it was called Other Sectors, but it was kind of like the private sector. So it was a panel of I think 5 people from different areas of the private sector talking about what they did, how they got where they are. It was interesting because there was one of the women on the panel was, she was actually starting up her own little meteorology firm, which was an interesting perspective to hear because I've always thought about going working for somewhere else, but I suppose that is something you could do is offer your own consulting.
Good law and policy. I like that one.
There was this really interesting group of talks about atmospheric rivers, and they were talking about different field campaigns that they used to better understand what's going on. So they were like taking planes up and like finding or doing measurements like within the atmospheric river, and I thought that was just like really interesting.
I would also say the private sector panel, and then there was one talk with somebody who works for a private consulting forecasting company and learning about who their clients are and who pays them for forecasts. Because I knew a lot about weather service type of side of forecasting, but not the private sector part of it. And then also learning about how her work schedule is different than maybe like a government work schedule, and how she can work from home and pick her hours better than maybe like a public job.
Mine was the hydrology one. We kind of already talked about it, but I just thought it was an interesting career path that I hadn't thought about before.
I really liked the NOAA career path one, because I feel like sometimes you don't realize how many like unique and niche jobs there are within NOAA. So it was nice to kind of see all the panelists kind of experience all those different unique roles, which I had never really heard about until I heard them speak.
I think my favorite was the same one that Ben mentioned, the talk about like how we communicate weather warnings and how we get that information across to the public and keep people safe. That was interesting.
We can, we have about time for one other question. Does anyone have a burning question? Either on, any of the interests that you just heard of, if you're curious about NOAA career paths, curious about science communication, hydrology, any other remaining questions?
Did they give you ways to look into it more? Like, did they what they talked about it, did they suggest how to research more into it?
For the stuff, are you talking about more like, science topics, or are you talking about more like the career side of things?
I can do both. How about career?
For me specifically, just like with the hydrology stuff, like, I guess for jobs, I just like had always been searching like atmospheric science or whatever, because that's the major. So like, I guess the biggest thing was just like learning about other, like, now I know that like I'm qualified to be a hydrologist upon a graduation. So like now instead of just searching atmospheric science, I'm now like searching for that. I know they have stuff on like USA Jobs, but they also like anything on LinkedIn or whatever else.
There was also a table at the career fair thing that had this flyer for like, I don't remember what they called it, but it was basically like a search engine for like internships, something like that. I have the flyer, I can like send you a picture of it if you want to email it out to me, but I don't remember what it was. It didn't seem really applicable to me because of what I was trying to do with my next steps, but I don't know, could be something to look into else.
A lot of the breakout sessions, so I guess one of the topics or one of the periods of time they broke out into like different sectors. Like that was one job, one was in the private sector, public sector, all that. And during those sections, like at the end of the session, you would have the opportunity to either talk in the mic to the person speaking, or even after that, the people would sit up there for a little bit, and so you could talk to them for longer. And so one of the ways I guess I got more information was I went to talk to someone, and he gave me some more information on how I want to progress if I wanted to do what he did, because I thought what he did was really interesting. And so I think talking to the people who come about those sessions was a good way to learn.
And to this one as well, like they built in, they called it like coffee hour, which was just like, I don't know if it was like half an hour or something like that, like 15-minute periods of just like everyone's kind of around in this area, and like most of the time those speakers were there. And so while you had to do a little bit of like assertive finding the person you wanted to talk to, there were definitely people that took advantage of that and used it as a way to like get more information about some of the specific topics that the presenter talked about.
Yeah, just generally, basically summarizing what's already been said. For next steps in terms of careers, networking is absolutely important, both in the coffee breaks, the asking questions after each presentation, and keeping in contact. Sharing LinkedIn details, having a good elevator speech to introduce yourself with someone. All right.
I could add one more thing to that
Yes,
real quick
yeah.
that I just remembered. In at least the talks I went to, I saw that some of the speakers had their email up on the board too, and were like really open to you getting their email and like reaching out if you were really interested in what they were talking about. It seemed like everyone that I listened to was like really, really receptive to that, so that would also be like a good resource if you're at the conference.
All right. So, yeah. I think it's a pretty quick.
Alright, okay, we have an activity, yay!
Yes.
Okay.
So, every year for Solstice Party, we have skits that will have.
They're
we'll have-
basically like activities. I don't know why they're called skits, but they're just like fun little activities. Gets people laughing. It's like social thing. We have some of like our previous like what our done things were. So last year we did the Olympics, which I wouldn't recommend something like that again because it got a little too chaotic with everybody moving around. Which I think added to the fun, but in some ways. But like the year before that, we had like a family feud kind of thing to try to see who was the smartest of the faculty and staff versus graduate students versus undergrads. years ago also a fun one was the faculty did is your professor smarter than ChatGPT, which led to a very funny picture of Myra. But it's just things like that, and so we're always looking for ideas because there's so many different things that we could do. Sorry Ben, I stole it from you.
Yeah, so with thank you, Paige, for the other, like, I forgot about the are you smarter than ChatGPT? So we bring some of these, ideas from past years. So just take a minute to think about it, and then turn to someone near you, and we'll just take like 2 minutes, just talk, or like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Just talk about any ideas that you have about, something that a group of 150 people
I
could
would
do.
not say
Like,
that. I would say 100.
100 people.
100 like probably at most at this point.
Yeah.
Unless you guys all sign up for it, which I mean you can. Just get yourself some tickets now and then. Sorry.
Yeah. So turn to a partner and just talk about it.
Also, if you think of any other ideas later, you don't have to think them right now, you can email us.
It's so different. Just think about American Ninja Warrior. I love the guys. Well, yeah, but you have to act out of the room. Yeah, it's actually a pretty good idea. I don't know how to act out. Yeah, that's true.
All right, 30 more seconds.
You guys?
All right, we'll wrap up. Knight has another announcement, just quick. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah, sorry about that, I'm tired. So, who has any ideas that you'd like to share? Emily?
So, Wheel of Fortune, except it's like really absurd weather terms that are like not easy to guess. I don't have the example for you, but we can find some. And then you get like letters.
I feel like John Martin would absolutely ace that
He
one.
would crush it.
Like I think there was a from our Family Feud. I think one of the questions was like, when does our like the plaque in the lobby, like what date is it like attributed to? And he knew it. He knew it, which is the most. I feel like it's the most like John Martin coded thing ever.
So if we do that, sit next to Dr. Martin.
Yeah.
Any other ideas?
You could have like a professor and like 5 students that like kind of like Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader, but like 5 undergrads and then like 1 professor then.
Oh,
Some kind of variation.
that would be interesting. Yeah, professors, grad students versus undergrads.
You could do a who said it kind of thing, where it's was it a meteorologist on TV, or was it one of the professors in the department?
Oh, that could be interesting. I'm like describing the storm. Yeah. Any other ideas? These are good.
The one that popped into my head was throwing an impressions contest of famous broadcasters.
Famous broadcasters impressions. Could be interesting. Ben?
An idea that we basically everyone guesses in like millimeters or small amounts, so that everyone has different guesses how deep the ice outside my node is.
Okay.
And then you go to like measure kind of that kind of thing. I guess when people walk out, but
Yeah, like that would be cool.
A rock paper scissors tournament, but instead of rock paper scissors, you have like different like weather turns like cloud rain lightning.
That's good. Any others? One that I heard, and I forgot if it was Megan or Nikhil, but was Price is Right. And I kind of adapted it to. Oh, was it yours?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
That was Knight's idea. Price is Right, and I kind of like took it as like Price is Right for extratropical cyclone, sea level pressure kind of thing, or maybe hurricanes.
Just have him look at the picture and then you have to guess.
Right. Yeah. Like tell some like this storm had
But you
wind
can't give the
speeds of
name.
this,
You
and
can't give the name then.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But
I feel like that's another thing that John Martin would absolutely
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, yes, that is that Alberta Clipper of 1993.
We'll have some hurricanes.
It's going to a tropical cyclone.
We have to mix it.
True. Yeah, what do you know?
Exactly.
Any other ideas? These were really nice. These were good. Did you have one? Oh, good. All right.
Well, if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to email me or any of the executive board. We'd be happy to hear other ideas. I know that wasn't a long time to like brainstorm, but yeah, that is all I think. So, okay.
Thank you guys so much for coming. If you haven't signed in, please sign in at the front.
Oh, wait, no, that's a quantity stroke.
We're like scoping it out. We're like. Oh.